My salon was alive that afternoon, the blow dryers humming like background music while the scent of hairspray clung to the air. I moved from chair to chair with ease, my scissors flashing under the lights. This place is my kingdom. I designed every chandelier, every velvet chair, even the little teacups I serve to clients. People don't just come here for hair. They come to feel safe, to talk, to breathe. And I carry all their stories like delicate threads woven into my own. That's when the glass door burst open and a woman I'd never seen rushed in. She looked flustered, cheeks flushed, clutching her purse as if it held her heart inside. I've seen nerves before, brides trembling before their big day, women calming themselves before job interviews. But this was different. There was urgency in the way she moved, like tonight would change everything. I straightened up, ready to help, my smile wide enough to calm any storm. "Of course, darling, we'll make you shine." "What's the occasion?" I asked, guiding her gently into my chair. She finally let out a breath, her lips curling into a bright smile. "Oh, I'm meeting someone. A man I've been talking to for months. It's finally happening tonight." Her words spilled out in a rush, and as I brushed through her hair, I had no idea that every casual stroke of the comb was pulling me closer to a truth I never wanted to face. I've always believed the chair reveals everything. The moment someone sits down, they let their guard slip just a little, and the truth starts pouring out with every strand I cut. She introduced herself as Vanessa, her voice light but brimming with excitement. I draped the cape around her shoulders, caught her eyes in the mirror, and saw the unmistakable glow of anticipation. Whatever this night was, it meant the world to her. I told myself to focus on the hair, but her energy kept pulling me in. As I sectioned her hair, she leaned back slightly, sighing with relief. "I can't believe it's finally happening," she said, almost like she was confessing a secret she'd been carrying for too long. I gave her a gentle nod, the kind of encouragement I've offered countless women before. It's part of the job, listening without judgment, making someone feel beautiful inside and out. Still, something about her words lingered in the air, heavier than they should have. I asked her what made tonight so special, keeping my tone curious but light. She clasped her hands together, grinning. "We've been talking for months, and he's just different, kind, funny, the kind of man who actually listens. I think this could be something real." Her voice had that dreamy lift, the kind that comes when hope mixes with desire. I smiled back politely, brushing her hair with slow, even strokes, never guessing how close her story was to colliding with my own life. I kept my hands steady, guiding the scissors with the same precision I'd mastered over the years, but my ears stayed locked on every word that slipped from her lips. Vanessa laughed nervously, her fingers drumming against the armrest. She reminded me of a schoolgirl on the edge of her first big date, except this wasn't innocent teenage giddiness. There was a maturity in her tone, a hunger for connection that comes only after life has handed you disappointments. She went on about how she wanted her hair to look perfect, how this night was a chance to finally meet the man who had been capturing her heart piece by piece. I nodded along, adding volume here, smoothing strands there, all while offering little reassurances. It's funny, isn't it? As hairdressers, we don't just style hair. We style confidence. We hold secrets. We become witnesses to the chapters our clients are writing. Vanessa was no exception. At that moment, though, I thought nothing of it. To me, she was just another woman searching for a little magic in my chair, chasing a dream she believed was finally within reach. I couldn't have known then that each detail she shared was a spark landing on dry wood, waiting to ignite. My salon had seen tears before, betrayals whispered between sips of tea, but never had I realized that the next story to unravel here would be my own. As I trimmed away the ends of her hair, our conversation flowed the way it always does in that chair, casual, unguarded, almost like we'd known each other for years. Vanessa leaned in a little, her eyes soft and dreamy, and started talking about him again. "He's tall, with dark hair and the most charming smile," she said, her voice practically melting into the air. "He works in finance, always says he's stuck with late hours." The words caught me off guard. My hands slowed just a fraction, though I doubt she noticed. Finance. Late hours. Those were phrases I'd heard before, straight from David's lips when he explained why he couldn't make it home for dinner. I forced a polite smile into the mirror, nodding as if nothing had shifted inside me. But something had. Something sharp, like a thorn pressing deeper with every detail she shared. I tried to steady my breathing, to keep the scissors moving, because the last thing I could afford was to let my suspicion show. She laughed, oblivious to the storm building inside me. "He always makes time for me, though. He says I make the long days worth it." My stomach tightened, but I swallowed hard and kept my mask firmly in place. Years of listening had taught me how to hide my reactions, but now, for the first time, it was my own life being threaded into someone else's story. She kept talking, her words painting a picture I didn't want to recognize. "He loves red wine," she said with a sparkle in her eyes, "and he can't start his day without strong black coffee." My grip on the comb faltered just slightly, and I steadied myself before she could notice. Red wine and black coffee. Those weren't just habits. Those were David's rituals, the small routines I'd lived beside for years. I leaned closer, pretending to focus on the layers I was cutting, but inside my chest, my heart was beating far too loud. She was smiling, reminiscing about moments that weren't hers to hold, moments that had once belonged only to me. "And he always wears that blue tie," she added with a soft laugh. "Says it's his lucky charm." My hands froze for a split second. That tie had been a gift from me on our 10th anniversary. I forced myself to breathe, forcing a neutral expression into the mirror. My scissors snipped quietly, though my thoughts were roaring louder with every second. Could it really be him? Could David, the man I trusted, the man I built a life with, be the same mystery she was so giddy about? I felt my throat dry up, but I knew I had to hold my ground. If she saw my face crack, the truth would spill too soon, and I wasn't ready. Not yet. I felt the scissors grow heavier in my hand, every snip echoing like a countdown I couldn't stop. Vanessa tilted her head, smiling at her reflection as if rehearsing for him, and I had to bite the inside of my cheek to keep from reacting. Every detail lined up too perfectly, too painfully, with David. The wine, the coffee, the tie. My world was shifting beneath me, but she remained blissfully unaware, lost in her own fairy tale. I wanted to ask more, to push, to dig until I had the certainty that was clawing at me. But I also knew the danger of knowing too much too soon. So I played along, my voice soft and encouraging, my movements smooth and professional. She kept talking, her laughter like little daggers, and I kept nodding, each sound burrowing deeper into my chest. I'd heard confessions in this chair before, but never one that threatened to unravel my own life. By the time I set the scissors down, my mask was starting to crack. I swallowed hard, keeping the smile plastered on, though my insides were trembling. My heart knew the truth, but my head begged me to wait for proof. I couldn't fall apart here, not in front of her. Not yet. So I tucked the storm behind my eyes and told myself one thing. If the answers were coming, I would face them on my terms. I couldn't take it anymore. Every word out of her mouth had been a needle pricking closer to the truth I didn't want to face. So, with a steady voice that betrayed none of my chaos, I said, "He sounds like quite the gentleman. Do you have a photo of him? Small town. Maybe I know him." My heart was pounding, each beat like a warning drum, but outwardly I stayed calm, almost playful, as if I were just curious. Vanessa's eyes lit up. "Of course. He's gorgeous. You'll see." She pulled her phone from her purse with the eagerness of someone showing off a prize. My stomach tightened as I clipped the last few strands of her hair, pretending to focus, when really all I was waiting for was that one confirmation, that image. That undeniable truth that would either shatter me or set me free. She turned the screen toward me, her smile wide and proud. And there he was. David. My David. His arm wrapped around her shoulders, his face tilted in that familiar grin I'd seen across dinner tables, in family photos, in quiet mornings over coffee. The air left my lungs so fast I thought I might faint. My world tilted, the ground beneath me slipping. And yet, somehow my hands didn't shake. I finished the haircut with icy precision. My lips parted, but no sound came out at first. I felt like someone had yanked the floor from beneath me. "That's my husband," I finally whispered, though so softly it barely reached my own ears. Vanessa didn't notice. She was too busy beaming at her screen, too wrapped up in her fantasy. Inside, though, my chest burned, the betrayal searing through me in a way I could hardly comprehend. I forced myself to inhale, to steady my hands as I moved the comb through her hair. If she looked up, she'd see nothing but a professional finishing her work. That mask was all I had left in that moment. But behind it, my mind was a storm, replaying years of trust, promises, anniversaries, all now stained by the image of him holding her as if she were the center of his world. Every instinct screamed at me to scream, to throw the phone, to demand she leave my chair. But I didn't. I swallowed the fire, tucked it away behind clenched teeth, and cut with precision so sharp it could have sliced through bone. This wasn't the time to break. If David thought he could humiliate me, he was wrong. I would finish her haircut, smile politely, and bide my time. My revenge would not be rushed. I handed her the mirror with a steady smile, the kind of practiced expression I'd given 1,000 clients before. "Perfect," she said, twirling a strand between her fingers, completely unaware of the war raging inside me. I nodded, adjusting her cape, my voice light, almost cheerful, as I told her how stunning she looked. Every syllable felt like it was dipped in poison, but I refused to let it show. When she stood and thanked me, I accepted her gratitude like a stranger might. Polite, detached, careful. She left the salon humming with anticipation, her perfume lingering in the air long after the door closed. I stayed rooted to the floor, staring at the space where her phone had been, where David's smile had gutted me in one flash of light. The scissors in my hand felt heavier than steel, like they carried the weight of every lie he'd ever told. I should have collapsed right there, but I didn't. I swept the hair off the floor with slow, deliberate strokes, each movement keeping me from falling apart. My salon was my stage, and today I had played my role to perfection. But the curtain was about to rise on a new act, one where I wouldn't be the fool, one where David would learn that betraying me was the last mistake he'd ever make. That evening, my house felt colder than ever, though every lamp was lit. I sat at the kitchen table with the photo printed and lying neatly in the center, like a weapon waiting to be used. My tea had gone cold hours ago, untouched. I wasn't pacing or crying. I was still. The kind of stillness that comes before a storm breaks. I knew David would walk through that door, humming, loosening his tie, believing his lies were still intact. The lock clicked. Right on cue, he stepped inside, jacket draped over his arm, humming some careless tune. He tossed his keys onto the counter, not even glancing at me at first. "Busy day at the office?" I asked, my voice calm, deliberate, each word sharp enough to slice. He looked up, startled by my tone, then smiled as if nothing was wrong. "Yeah, you know how it is. Meetings, late hours." That was when I slid the photo across the table. He froze mid-step, the color draining from his face. His fingers trembled as he picked it up, staring at the image of himself wrapped around another woman. Wait. I can explain. It's not what it looks like, he stammered. I leaned back, folding my arms, my voice cutting through his excuses like glass. She sat in my chair today, David. She told me everything. And you? You paraded your affair right into my salon. He dropped the photo back onto the table like it burned his skin. Bianca, please, he started, his voice low, desperate, the confident man I once knew nowhere to be found. It wasn't serious. She doesn't mean anything. You're my wife. His words tumbled over themselves, sloppy and weak. I stared at him, silent for a beat, letting his excuses hang in the air like smoke that wouldn't clear. You lied to me in my own home, in my own salon, and you dare say it's nothing? My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Calm anger has a weight all its own, heavier than any shout. His shoulders sagged, his hands gripping the counter as if it might anchor him. For a man who lived his life in control, seeing him crumble was almost poetic. He knew he'd been caught with no escape hatch left. I can fix this, he begged, stepping closer, his hand reaching for mine. I pulled back, leaving him hanging in the space between us. You broke something that can't be fixed, I said, my words icy, deliberate, final. For years, I had given him loyalty, trust, and the sanctuary of a marriage built on my devotion. Tonight, in one photo, he'd turned it all into rubble. And I refused to be buried beneath it. His mask cracked wide open. The man who once strutted through life with confidence now stood before me like a child cornered, scrambling for words. It was just a mistake. One mistake, he muttered, his eyes darting anywhere but mine. I tilted my head, studying him the way I'd study a stranger, because that's what he was now, a stranger who wore my husband's face but not his honor. I gathered the photo and set it back in front of him, pressing it down flat with my fingertips. You didn't make a mistake, David. You made choices. Every late night, every lie, every time you tied that blue tie and thought I wouldn't notice, you chose her. My voice didn't shake, because by now the pain had turned into something sharper, something cleaner. It wasn't heartbreak anymore. It was resolve. He opened his mouth again, but I lifted my hand and silenced him. You've said enough. My eyes locked on his, steady and unflinching. This marriage is over. You don't get to explain your way out of this, not when you dragged your affair into the one place I hold sacred. He froze, finally realizing the truth. I wasn't negotiating, and I wasn't forgiving. I was already planning my next move. The next morning, I didn't waste time with tears. Instead, I called my lawyer, my voice steady, my tone leaving no room for hesitation. He betrayed me in my own salon, I told her. I want him out of my life. For good. Saying it aloud lit a fire inside me, one that burned hotter than any heartbreak could. I wasn't the woman begging to be chosen. I was the woman choosing herself. While David scrambled with excuses and hollow promises, I gathered evidence, messages, the photo, every detail Vanessa had spilled so freely in my chair. My lawyer's eyes hardened as she reviewed them. This is more than enough, she said, her tone almost protective. For the first time in days, I felt a surge of relief. I wasn't powerless. I had proof, and proof meant leverage. Within weeks, the papers were signed, the assets divided, and the mask David wore for years was ripped away for everyone to see. His reputation, once polished and untouchable, began to crumble. Word spread quickly in a small town, and every whisper cut deeper than I ever could. Vanessa vanished from his side, too, realizing she was just another pawn in his game. And me? I was still standing, stronger than ever. I poured my energy back into the salon, the place that had nearly become my undoing, but instead became my sanctuary. My clients noticed the shift in me, my posture straighter, my smile sharper, my presence steadier than ever. They'd whisper encouragement as they settled into my chair, little reminders that I wasn't broken, I was reborn. Every snip of my scissors felt like shedding the weight of betrayal, strand by strand. David, meanwhile, stumbled through the wreckage of his own making. His late nights had turned into lonely ones, his polished reputation now riddled with cracks. He called, he begged, he even showed up outside the salon once, his face pale, his tie askew. But I didn't waver. I didn't yell. I didn't even let him inside. True revenge isn't about noise. It's about silence, about closing the door so firmly the other person feels the emptiness echo. And the best part? Vanessa disappeared just as quickly as she had arrived. She wanted no part of a man exposed as a liar, and I couldn't even blame her. I didn't need her apology, and I didn't need her pity. What I needed, and what I claimed, was my peace. By the time the divorce was finalized, I wasn't mourning anymore. I was already building the next version of myself, one he would never touch again. One afternoon, as I worked on a longtime client's hair, she leaned in and whispered, "You seem different, Bianca. Lighter." I caught her gaze in the mirror and smiled, the kind of smile that comes from surviving the fire and stepping out stronger. "You know what they say?" I told her softly, clipping the last section into place. "When a man cheats, it's not the end. It's just a new beginning. For me." Her eyes widened, then she nodded, squeezing my hand with quiet pride. The salon, once the stage of my deepest humiliation, had become the very ground of my triumph. Every chair, every mirror, every strand of hair I cut reminded me of my resilience. I no longer saw the betrayal when I walked in. I saw the woman who refused to be destroyed by it. The laughter of my clients, the hum of the dryers, the clinking of teacups, all of it wrapped around me like a chorus of strength. David's name no longer carried weight in my world. He was just a cautionary tale whispered among townsfolk, while I remained here, thriving, loved, respected. I had rebuilt myself without asking for permission, without looking back. And as I locked up the salon that night, I felt the air shift around me. Calm, steady, free. The kind of freedom that comes only after you've lost everything and realized you never needed him to begin with.